Well, hello friends, and welcome back to the cabin. I'm actually getting ready down here to build a shelf over here in the corner for some lubricants and things of that nature for the new sawmill when it gets here. But I'll tell you what, I am certainly glad that I built this rail system the way that I did. So we know that the most important part of a structure is the foundation. When I built that one up there for the other sawmill that we had, I never anticipated putting logs the size that I have put on there. And I only poured like a small 4-inch footer in the bottom and had some 2x10s that I screwed together, standing edgeways that I screwed the track on. And that's all I had, you know, plus the cross bunks. And so when we started looking at, and honestly this was kind of built along the size of the mill that I had. We had no idea that we were going to get a brand new sawmill, but you know, like I said before, you know, if Jennifer moves out here and builds a home, we're going to be doing a lot more milling and a lot more buildings. And so, you know, we just decided that it was time to go heavy duty if we were going to do a lot more work. So one of the reasons that I chose to do two of these side by side is because, like I've said before, the feet are offset on the framework of the Wood-Mizer. They're a little over 2 inches apart, and since they're 3 inches wide and 6 inches long, both feet would not fit on one single rail. So I decided to go with a double rail system, tie them together and tie them down. And I'll tell you, this whole build right here is overkill really for what I think we're going to be doing. But like I said before, it is peace of mind, and having, just knowing that if you did drop a log, chances are you probably wouldn't knock this foundation out of line as easily as you would have the other one. So we didn't want to be taking a chance on that, because that was one of our biggest fears, was dropping a log too heavy onto the sawmill and then knocking that side out of line, because I had taken the leveling feet off and actually had it sitting down right down on the framework. From everything that I have read and what that I have that's available to me from Wood-Mizer, the frame of this sawmill cannot sit down here, because the safety catch for the head on each side actually, if you picture this as the metal part of the railing for the sawmill, it actually hooks underneath and rides here. That way the head can't fall off, because it will grab the bottom side. Now the reason I pulled this tape out here was to give you kind of an idea of how large the head is on this machine. Now the track's going to be sitting in here, but the machine, the head of it, is going to be sitting about like from here to the end of that orange tape out there. So it's a fairly large head, because it will cut a 36-inch log. So I had to leave myself room to get by. And the track, like I said, this really wasn't designed for a brand new sawmill, especially this size. But when I got to looking at it, I thought, you know, I can get it in there. So that's the reason that we went ahead and bought it. And it's going to give us, like I said also, the ability to cut almost a foot wider than what we could with the other one. Not only the log size, but also it will give us, what, 14 inches more in board width if I wanted to cut one that wide, because I think it'll cut 35 inches, 35 and a half inches, something like that. And the other one would cut 22. But, you know, I don't need a board that wide. But, you know, if I was looking maybe to make a tabletop or something, that might really come in handy. But anyway, we went ahead and got it because, you know, the price difference and some of the others that we looked at wasn't that much, so we just decided to go ahead and do it. But yeah, this is the way that the head is going to sit, most likely in relationship to where the track is at. And out there, the operator side, now it's not on the inside, it's on the outside. And I didn't want to be coming in this direction because on a Wood-Mizer, the sawdust exhaust is on the same side as the operator's side. So anyway, but yeah, I wanted to be able to go in that direction because I did not want to blow sawdust in here. So the track was laid out to go that way. Since it is such a large unit, Wood-Mizer said that they had an extra LT70 head cover that they would send us, because I told them that, you know, I had built a brand new place and the edge of the E was out there, and so they suggested that why don't they just throw that in with the package and send it to us, that way we could protect the head, which was really, really nice. So yeah, that's what's coming. I'll have a cover for it, and you know, there may be an additional extension of the roof maybe at some point, maybe another 2 feet maybe, and I can angle it down where it would shed off, but I don't know, you know, we'll just have to wait and see, because that's the least of my worries. As long as I can cover the machine, the head, you know, and have it out of the weather, then that was my concern. But it looks like Wood-Mizer is going to take care of that for us. I know some folks that may have watched the last video on the Outpost channel when I was actually building this probably wondered, why in the world am I using timber screws when I have anchor bolts in there? Well, first of all, it didn't hurt anything, you know. What I wanted to be able to do was not only tie them together, but to anchor them down as well. I could have done that individually, but when I tied the two together, it made it more of one unit and actually allowed me 2 bolts, you know, per unit, so to speak. Okay, if you understand where I'm coming from. So while I'm building it, it doesn't hurt to overdo it somewhat, because like I've said before, it is peace of mind, and then it's done. When you start adding a bunch of stuff in there and to try to go back and do it later on, can be a lot more difficult sometimes, depending on what you're doing, right? So get it done right the first time. That's one thing I've learned in my lifetime, having to do things over and over and over. Get it done right the first time, that way you don't have to worry about it. So having these built in that manner gives me a great sense of peace. You know, having the footers where I've got, actually there's 600 pounds of concrete in each one of these holes. The bottom is larger than the top. I've got that rebar that reinforces it down in there. I've got the 10-inch anchor bolts. I've got 10-inch lag bolts, or screws, timber screws I mean, in there, and they're all tied to, both rails are tied together and they're tied down. So I don't think that we're going to have any problem, but the reason I did it, like I said before, was the big fear that we had of slamming a huge log on the bunks up there. You know, that's one thing that you, if your track is out, then whatever you're cutting is out. You know, there's nothing that you can do to straighten that up until you straighten up the problem. So if I can keep this foundation from moving, and if I've got the leveling feet, you know, for whatever reason a bolt ever came loose, I could put it right back up there. Because I had intended just to set it down on this track, but I can't because of the safety clamps that they've got for the head. But I will have it just high enough where it will track underneath there, because I don't want to raise it up too high. Because the higher that I raise it, the higher that the operator station gets, because there's no adjustment in it. And so looking at the pictures that I have available to me, it looks like the operator station is right here. What I have done is actually raised that whole unit up about 8 inches. So since we're trying to work on a budget up here and really didn't see the reason to pour a whole concrete floor, but we needed the firm foundation for the sawmill, like I said before, I figured that I could get by with 5 pillars of that size and the 6x6s, and I think I kind of guessed it pretty good. Of course, still I'm going to try to take care of this by not slamming anything down on the bunk that I don't have to, you know, because I want to take care of not only the machine but the foundation. But the worry is, if it did happen, I don't have to worry about knocking the machine out of line. So That's another reason that I went ahead and did it heavy duty, so that I could have that peace of mind and not worry about it. Well, yeah, so some of my ideas are trying to organize a little bit down here, because honestly folks, I can't get started on that solar project with all that equipment that we've got up there that's been delivered, because I don't have any way to cut the material. So I thought that I would spend my time while I'm waiting on the sawmill to get here. I can go ahead and improve this area right here by kind of organizing some things. I've got my glasses, a few tools down here. I got my cant hooks hung up. So I'm getting ready, like I said, to build a shelf right here. And then I've got some other tools ordered that I don't have. They will hang right here. That way they're easy access for me whenever I'm working down here and I need something, you know, some sort of a hook to roll a log, or, you know, like a pickeroon to help get, sometimes those slabs, it seems like they stick, but just one of the little hand pickeroons that you can stick and kind of get it unlodged so that you can move it. You know, just a few tools like that. So like I said, I thought I would go ahead and organize this and kind of get things, you know, that I do have down here and get them put up. One of the other things that I need to do, and I told Jennifer the other day, that I need to get a load of gravel and put in here, because when I pull in, especially in the winter time, I don't want to be, this area right here be muddy and actually creating ruts. So we're going to go ahead and build this up with some stone, and I'll probably put some on that side, the walkway where I go back and forth. But that should take care of any issues that we might have with sinking up, you know, on the front tires, since they're smaller than the back tires, especially right in this area right here where I go back and forth, basically in the same spot. So want to put some gravel in there to avoid any ruts that we might get. I'm not real positive, but if you can see this right here, the top of the bunk on this new sawmill is probably going to be somewhere around this area right here, which is going to make it about 18 inches off the ground just to start with, okay? Because you do have the feet that go underneath the frame, but it also has a raised, I don't know if it's 4 or 5 inches on the bunk, the cross bunks that on the sawmill. I'm talking about the frame. So the log sits up on top of those, right? And what that does is, because my other one didn't have it, that allows you to be able to drive in here and lower the log down on top of the bunk and still have enough room that you can let go of it just a little bit and back your forks out if you're using forks to load your sawmill. Now I've also got the grapple up there that I can do it with, and it seems like I've got a little bit more control with the grapple. But yeah, it looks like the bunks are going to set up probably somewhere, the very tip of them, somewhere in this neighborhood right here. So if that's a foot and I've gained 8 inches down there, we're looking at 20 inches, you know. So I figure somewhere between 18 and 20 inches is going to be, so the bottom of the log would be right about here. And that's up pretty good height. You wouldn't really have to bend over a whole lot, not like the other one. Now this new mill is supposed to be able to cut, I believe, 17 feet and 6 inches. But since I really don't want to use anything that long, you know, if I was going to use something that long, I would probably want an 18 foot, right? To even it out, depending on what I'm building. But it is designed to cut that long, so that gives me a little extra space to be able to put 16 feet in there and not have to worry about getting it really close, because on that other sawmill I had to get about this close to the blade on some of the logs that I was trying to cut, you know, because when you cut, you always cut about 4 to 6 inches over. So if I have a 16 foot log, it's not 16 feet long, it's either 16.4 or 16.6. And depending on the angle of your cut, it could be even longer. So that gives me a little extra room to play with, to be able to set the log down there and not have to be so close with the head. If I'm close to anything, it would be the end down here where I just pass through it, raise the head back up, and return, right? So yeah, that's another cool feature about this sawmill that we didn't have with the other one. Well, I don't think I have any worries about this thing outlasting me, because I certainly think that it will. I want to ask you a question though. Leave me some comments down below. My son thinks that I need to cover these holes. I told him, I said, well, I don't want to cover the holes. I could just basically, I think, if I had a hole saw, I could punch out a bunch of plugs and just stick those in there. Maybe I can get a, I used a 2-inch bit so that we could get those washers on there real easy, because I had to have a little room to play in there. So I could probably get like a 2-inch dowel and just cut them off and stick them down in there. But I don't want to have a really just a short plug, because I want to be able to have access to those again. So if I needed to, I could actually put it, let's say, a screw in the top of that plug and pull it back out. But he's afraid that it can get water in there and would deteriorate this pressure treated wood. And I kind of agree, especially on the outside of the building out there. I wouldn't worry about these in here, but we don't want them to get plugged up with anything else that might be hard, because you wouldn't be able to get to the top of the anchor bolts then to get these off in the event that you needed to. And like I said, they're probably going to outlast me, but just in case, let's go ahead and do it right to start with. So I believe, I believe he's right. Like I said, leave me some comments. Let me know what you would do. But I'm thinking about getting a wooden plug and maybe cutting them off maybe a 1/2 inch or 1 inch, and just kind of pecking them down in there, get them seated, and just let them stay like that. That way I can pop it out and have access to those nuts if I needed to ever take this apart. Well, friends, even though the sawmill is not here yet, we still want to give credit where credit is due. And I'll tell you what, probably some of the best blades that I have ever used come from Joe MAINE. There's his information up there, and you'll find it down in the description section below. Like I said, we want to give credit where credit is due. So if you'd like a really good saw blade for your machine, be sure and check him out. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. I was just thinking, I have covered this subject right here probably very thoroughly, because it's been my life for the past 3 weeks getting ready and anticipating the arrival of the new sawmill. Hopefully it will be shipped this week, because when we talked to them, they said 2 or 3 weeks. So I think this is the beginning of the 3rd week, or the end of the 3rd week, or the beginning of the 4th week, I should say. But anyway, regardless, it's ready for the arrival of the new mill, and it would be nice to go ahead and have tools down here. That way, once we get it put together, we can just start slinging boards off of it again, because we've got to get that solar system set up, I just wanted to cover, because I know I'm going to get some comments on why did I put timber screws in there when I had anchor bolts and so forth, and that's the reason why. Okay, that's the reason I do the things that I do. When I commented on somebody's channel that wanted to know or ask some questions, and I said the way that I do it is I go on YouTube and I look for somebody who has done this, and several people, and I see what they have done, and then with all of that in mind, then I come down here and I do it my way. The way that I would. So if there's good points in this one and good points in that one, I will try to include those with my own logic, because at the end of the day, you're going to do it your way anyway, right? So this primarily, like I said, when I went and looked, there wasn't a whole lot on YouTube about sawmill foundations. So we did give a shout out to Two Guys Timber Framing, who built a timber frame foundation that was very, very sturdy for their woodland sawmill. But I wanted to do mine just a little bit different, and the fact that my feet were offset caused me to build something a little bit what would appear to be overkill. But I think it's going to be stronger because I've actually tied the two of them together. So that even makes what I did even better than that. But anyway, thanks again for stopping by, and like I said, hanging out with us and working on this foundation with us. We certainly do appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you back up here at the cabin again next time.